Welcome to this week's Friday Night Meta weekly series here on the channel. Excited to break down the latest and greatest for you and all the key decks that are going on right now. So we'll take a look at all the different formats, best of one and best of three. Thank you for tuning in. Appreciate your support. Thank you for the likes and the subs as always. And if you happen to have a question or comment throughout today's episode, do let me know because I love to hear from you. Now, last, don't forget to swing by the Discord server, an amazing community there as well. Now, finally, before we move into the rest of the episode here for today, the timestamps are available to you down below for each of those things that we just talked about. Now, let's get going and break down standard best of one. So right now, we're about over halfway through March. A lot of things are starting to come together here. We've seen some changes in the meta recently, and we'll take a look at the wide aggregate meta and also a little bit more narrow when we get to Mythic here, because generally around when we get halfway through the month, we get a good representation of that. Plenty of those in the Discord server as well hit Mythic, which I love to see as always. All right, so here's what we got going on for standard best of one. Azor Soldiers still remaining at the top in terms of win rates. We have started to see some other things moving in here. Again, we've talked about that before. Mono red aggro, mono red burn, Selesnya toxic, mono black control, mono white control, Azor's control, and mono blue tempo moving back in. Now, in terms of popularity, you can see here on the right, top three really being mono red aggro, mono red burn, and Azor's Soldiers. Really, again, being a very fast standard best of one. Now, when we look at the popularity over time and some of those trends, we do see these things starting to come down. The other decks starting to get a little bit more consistency in play. That Simic Toxic really falling off. That's probably been one of the bigger ones in terms of popularity. And again, we see those top three decks really kind of maintaining that space right now. And then when we look at those win rates over time, we do start to see that Azor Soldiers compression coming down, which is important. We begin to see that meta tightening up a little bit in terms of what's happening. So that is at a bronze and mythic level. Let's drill into mythic here and see what's going on. A little bit of a change, not too much. We still see Azor Soldiers at the top, mono red aggro. We do see Grixis mid-range in here, Selesnya toxic, mono black control, Azor's control, mono red burn, and mono white control. And here on the right, again, similar in terms of the popularity and everything else. So again, here we go. We can take a look at that. So that's always fun to take a look at and see what's happening. Let's zoom back out. Now we're going to check out best of three. Best of three here, we do see Esper midrange at the top, pretty commanding there, over 3%. Mono red aggro, mono black aggro, mono white midrange, Grixis midrange, Rakdos midrange, Selesnya toxic, and Jund midrange. Now on the right, heavily dominated again by these top four. Grixis midrange definitely doing it. Esper midrange there, mono white midrange, and mono red aggro. Then we can see that's going on here. We do again see that compression, that Esper or Grixis midrange coming down. We see that popularity of Esper midrange going up. We also see that mono red coming down here in particular for March. Now, when we see the rest here, you can see that Esper midrange has maintained pretty high in terms of that win rate. Mono red aggro was fairly strong out of the gate when Phyrexia all will be one. You can see that marker there first came out. All right, let's look at the mythic space and see what's happening there. Here we got a few changes going on. We do see Esper midrange at the top, mono white midrange, Grixis midrange. These three being very tight. Mono red aggro also very tight in those top four, and then you can see the bottom four there as well. And then on the right, similar what we're seeing in terms of popularity. Now again, you can see what's happening there at that popularity over time, and then that compression in those win rates there. So let's pull all the way back out. That is standard best of three. We're going to go check out Alchemy. Alchemy, we got mono red burn, mono red aggro. We got Rakdos sacrifice, mono white life gain, Boros equipment, 5-color sacrifice in there. We got a couple of these other ones. Mono red aggro, Rakdos sacrifice, Boros equipment, mono red burn. Really dominated by mono red aggro, 25%. Look at this, boom. See all that, boom. That's pretty much all you need to know there. Let's look at mythic. Same thing, boom. Game over. All right, let's go ahead and check out best of three. Best of three, Grixis midrange, and no Grixis midrange. All right, there we go. That concludes Alchemy best of three. Fast flyby here today. Moving into historic, we have Esper Affinity still at the top. I think we talked about this a little bit ago, maybe a week or two. Is it Wizards, Mono Green Elves, Rakdos midrange, Azor's Control, and then everything else kind of falling in there. I love seeing that Dimmer Mill in there. Is it Wizards there at 14%? Mono Green Elves, Azor's Control, Dimmer Mill doing pretty good. You can see the rest there. Here, the popularity over time as we see. Again, Alchemy coming out. Is it Wizards still maintains? Mono Green Elves still maintains. We do start to see that Esper Affinity at that top, trading with that Is it Wizards. That was not really going on before, a little bit, but it strengthened there with Alchemy for New Phyrexia. And let's go ahead and move into Mythic. Mythic, here's what we got. Is it Belcher's in there? Is it Wizards again? And then you can see that on the right. All right, we're going to go all the way back. Best of three. We see Rakdos midrange, Rakdos Goblins. Is it Wizards? Mono Green Devotion, some of the older decks. Rakdos midrange there at 25%. Mono Green Devotion, Rakdos Goblins. Is it Wizards? Let's see what we got going on. Again, huge in terms of that Rakdos midrange list. Then you can see the rest here in terms of those win rates over time. Let's break it down into Mythic. Not enough data. Get playing some Historic, friends. Best of three. All right. Explorer. Here's what we got going on in Explorer right now. Abzan Greasefang, Mono Blue Spirits, Leslie Angels, Mono White Humans, Mono Green Devotion. Then underneath the 55% there, we got Mono Red Aggro, Azor's Control, Rakdos Midrange. Popularity today, we got Leslie Angels, Mono Green Devotion, Abzan Greasefang, Rakdos Midrange. And then you can see some of these trends, again, heavily dominated by Leslie Angels, Mono Green Devotion. We got Mono Blue Spirits here on the win rates. That's been a very strong deck for some time. We do see that Mono White Humans popping in once in a while, and Absent Greasefang trading spaces there too. Let's go into Mythic. Nothing in Mythic, not enough. You playing Explorer. Now let's go ahead to best of three. Best of three, pretty competitive still here. We got Rakdos midrange, Mono Green Devotion on this side, down to 55%. Celestial Angels, pretty much similar decks. 5-color Fires is in there. We go over to popularity today. Really top four being that Rakdos midrange, Azor's Control, Mono Green Devotion, Gruul midrange. And then, let's see what we're looking at in terms of trends. We saw that Mono Green Devotion heavily falling off. Again, Phyrexia 1, new Rakdos midrange picking up. And then similar here in some of these win rates, we got that Gruul midrange coming in. And the compression here, 5-color Fires, and the decks and the meta really getting a little bit tighter. All right, let's go over to Mythic. Mythic is Rakdos midrange. All right, so let's go all the way back out. We've covered all the different formats that are best of one and best of three. Now just Historic Brawl. What's happening in Historic? Atraxa is happening in Historic. That's right. So we got Atraxa here over Rusko, the first sliver, Kinnan, Goshintai, Elshnorn's in there, Zika, and Azuri Stalker Spheres. Atraxa at 7.5%. Rusko really falling off from the heydays there. As you can see, that popularity over time. Boom. Atraxa going up. Rusko really coming down. All those things. Now we can look at these win rates. Atraxa heavily favored. Not too well, 3%. Nah, I'd say it's quite a bit. Then you got Rusko in there, and then you got all your other decks. Pretty widespread, 33% all the way to 65%. Woof, got a lot going on. All right, that concludes Historic Brawl. So to bring this home today for the week, we've got a few things moving around. Again, meta's still compressing, getting a little bit tighter there, which is typically what we expect around this time. After a new set has been released. We're halfway through the season, a little over halfway through the season for March. We begin to see more of that competitive nature in Mythic, a little bit less than typical, I certainly would say, for a lot of the data that we're used to seeing, but it is what it is. All right, well, thank you for your time. As always, I hope you enjoyed today's weekly series and snapshot of the meta. This helps latest and greatest stuff and decks to keep you on top of your game. Thank you for tuning in as always. Appreciate your likes and your subs and your support. Thank you to all the members as always as well. And if you happen to have a question or comment, do let me know because I love to hear from you, and swing by the Discord server. Great community there as always. I love it. And last but not least, we'll see you again next week. And we got a ton more content always here on the channel. Head your way on Magic the Gathering. All right, take care. Mythras out of here.